General Studies Paper 2, Governance. We analyze a question for General Studies Paper 2, Governance. There is also, this topic is also there in Political Science and International Relations, Paper 1, Section B. Why we give so much of importance to governance is, going by the previous year's papers, we find that a lot of questions come from the governance aspect. I'll take the question and I'll help you analyze the answer for the same. See, read the question. The institution of grassroots democracy is affected by structural infirmities. Review the same and suggest remedies. So here, what the examiner is trying to seek from you is, what are the structural shortcomings in the institution of the grassroots democracy? By grassroots democracy, I mean the rural local bodies, that is the Panchayat Raj, then the urban local bodies, that is the municipalities. So the first part of the answer would be highlighting the structural infirmities. The second part of the answer would be suggesting remedies to overcome the structural infirmities. So you can start the answer with you can devote just 1 or 2 lines on the concept of grassroots democracy. So grassroots democracy, it is not something which happened all of a sudden. It was there in the British period. It was there in the early Vedic period. Then the Cholas were the pioneers of local self-government. Then gradually, after independence, we have the directive principles of state policy, which say that the panchayats should become units of self-government by empowering them with sufficient powers. Then we had a host of committees like the Balwant Mehta Committee, Ashok Mehta Committee, the G.V.K. Rao Committee, and L.M. Singhvi Committee. So in your answer, the first 2 lines will be only about how the concept evolved. Not much importance, not much elaboration is required for this. Then you come to the main part of the answer. You point out how constitutional status to the rural local bodies and urban local bodies has been given by the 73rd and the 74th Amendment. The 73rd Amendment speaks of a 3-tier structure, the Gram Panchayat, Taluk Panchayat, and Jilla Parishad. Similarly, the 74th Amendment speaks of the Town Municipal Council, the City Municipal Council, and the City Corporations. See, both the 73rd and 74th Amendment speak of the District Planning Committee, they speak of a State Election Commission to conduct elections. Then they also speak of a State Finance Commission for distributing revenues between the state government, the rural local bodies, state government, and the urban local bodies. So this, what we have analyzed up to now, this will be the introductory part of the answer. This should not take more than 2 to 3 lines. Come to the main part of the answer. What are the structural issues? So when I speak of the structural issues, the first thing I speak of is the State Finance Commission. See, now both the 73rd and 74th Amendments speak of a State Finance Commission, which would go into the issue of distribution of revenues between the state government and the rural local bodies, state government and the urban local bodies. See what happens, the State Finance Commission gives its recommendations. Now who's going to follow up the recommendations? The major problem is, every 5 years these bodies are constituted, they make lengthy recommendations, but how far are they being implemented? Now you come to the main problem. See, whether it is the rural local body or the urban local body, they will implement only the recommendations which are favorable to them. That is, the SFC says you empower them, empower these bodies, give them sufficient funds. They harp on that, but they do not concentrate on the other part of the recommendations. That is, now the State Finance Commission says you improve governance, local governance. You provide a corruption-free government. you provide a decentralized governance, you provide pro-governance, that is active, the way the services are available, accessible and affordable. Then you take the composition of the State Election Commission. See, the State Election Commission is headed by a commissioner. He is generally a retired IAS officer who has had dealings with the government. You cannot expect him to be impartial as far as in relation with the state government. See, he would not like to rub the state government on the wrong side because he owes the appointment to the state government. So how far will he be impartial? That is why the second ARC and other bodies clearly state that the appointment of the SCC and SFC should be by a committee. It should not be a political appointment. Then the local bodies do not have any independent sources of finance. They are dependent on the state government. And one important thing, the second ARC rightly points out, there is a mismatch between funds, functions, and functionaries. See, you do not have enough funds. In the absence of funds, you cannot function properly. And you don't have functionaries to discharge the roles envisaged in the 73rd Amendment and 74th Amendment. See, what is happening is you are getting all the deputed staff from the state government who serve their tenure of 1 or 2 years and go back. They do not have any commitment. They do not have any interest to serve. So in this context, I would like to mention a novel experiment in Karnataka. See, now in Karnataka, the Chief Executive Officer of the Jilla Parishad, his confidential report is written by the Adhyaksha of the Jilla Parishad. See, this system is not there anywhere. Once you empower a political functionary to write your confidential report, then you do not have any independent functioning. Everything you are monitored by the political element. So that is why in Karnataka, after this amendment came about, many IAS officers are reluctant to serve as the Chief Executive Officer of the Jilla Parishad because no one would like to lose his career, lose his promotion, or get his career affected by the political element. Then another thing which you can speak of is the impartiality in functioning. See, the local bodies, whether it is the rural bodies or the urban bodies, have not been able to function impartially because, as I highlighted earlier, lack of competent staff, professional staff. Then decentralized corruption. So corruption has percolated right from the state level, going down to the grassroots level. So this decentralized corruption is another factor which is affecting the functioning of the rural bodies as well as the urban local bodies. So these are the issues in the functioning of the rural local bodies, urban local bodies. These are called the structural infirmities. Now we come to the second part of the answer. How do you strengthen them? See, the first thing would be, now you take the Constitution. The Constitution provides for a clear-cut division of powers between the center and the states. We have a union list, we have the state list, then we have a concurrent list. So union list, Parliament alone can legislate. The state list, the state legislature is competent. Concurrent list, both union and state can legislate. Now, why can't we have a fourth list, say the municipal list? So once you, on the one hand, you are speaking of constitutional status to Panchayat Raj, constitutional status to urban local bodies. This will not be complete unless you have a separate list called the local list or the municipal list, empowering or giving functions or giving statutory list of functions. Of course, the list of functions are enumerated in the 11th schedule and 12th schedule. But what I'm saying is, you make it pakka so that the state government cannot interfere in the functioning of the local bodies. The second thing which you can suggest is implementing the recommendations of the second ARC. The second ARC has laid down a lot of recommendations like empowering the local bodies to recruit their own personnel, giving them timely funds. Then, see here in this context, I would like to mention one particular thing. See, town planning. Town planning is the prerogative of the state government. Why can't town planning be given to the local bodies? Because they are the persons on the spot. Decentralized planning is one. Now we have a district planning committee. Strengthen the district planning committee. District planning committee is one way in which planning is from below, and you do not wait for all directions to come from the state government. Finally, the recommendation, another suggestion which you can incorporate in the answer would be empowering the local bodies. By empowerment, I mean recruiting, giving them sufficient power to recruit personnel necessary for the functions. So this particular question which you are going to analyze can be structured in the following manner. In the introductory part, you just mentioned how the concept of democratic decentralization evolved. Then come to the main part of the answer. You speak of the constitutional status to the urban local bodies and rural local bodies. Then the two major parts of the answer will be, the first is the structural infirmities. Structural infirmities, I mean, what are the problems faced by the existing mannerism, existing structure, that you highlight the 7-8 points which we have discussed. Conclude the answer by speaking about what suggestions you can offer to improve the functioning of the grassroots democracy. Thank you.